What is up, everybody? I am Hoops and Hip Hop, and welcome back to another episode of the Pokeblock Podcast. This is episode 4, if you will, of me bringing on a PokeTuber every week. It's been a lot of fun to this point, and today's guest is a really cool guy, and we're gonna have a really cool conversation. And that would be none other than Lumiose Trainer Zac. What's up, man?
Hey, how is it going? Thanks for inviting me onto your podcast, man.
Yeah, for sure. So I invited Zac onto the podcast just because he is a big Pokemon anime guy, and his channel is doing super awesome right now. In terms of just everything, but specifically you cover a lot of anime stuff, and that's been going really well for you. And I thought it would be really interesting to kind of have a conversation surrounding the anime, particularly kind of just from the sense of, I kind of mentioned it to you where I sort of follow the anime, obviously just as a Pokemon fan, but I am not necessarily watching every episode like you are. And I've just kind of noticed how within the Pokemon community, there's that anime community that are just super passionate about the show and everything that's going on. So me, as someone who's not necessarily part of that inner circle, I thought it would be really fun to just talk about what's going on in the anime and just sort of pick your brain on it, because I'm sure you have a lot of you'll have a lot of interesting stuff to offer that will make for good conversation.
Oh yeah.
So
for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will go ahead and get right into that. But before we do, obviously, always got to thank the sponsors that make this show possible. So with that being said, today's episode is brought to you by the Tax Defense Group. The team of professionals at the Tax Defense Group are passionate about helping taxpayers resolve their tax debt. Their services include basic tax preparation, tax audits, resolving large tax debt, and more. They actively represent taxpayers throughout the entire USA. So if you need help resolving your tax issues, contact the Tax Defense Group. Call the Tax Defense Group today at 800-850-7973 to get started. That number again is 800-850-7973, and you can visit them online at thetaxdefensegroup.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Writer Junkie. Are you thinking about starting a business or a side hustle? For all businesses to be successful, you need a website. Writer Junkie offers website development, content writing, and SEO services for business websites. So if you want to start that side hustle, call Writer Junkie today at 805-587-7966, and you can visit them online at writerjunkie.com. Also, quick shout out for our website, ucaststudios.com. Everything you find in the podcast in terms of articles, content, all that stuff, you can find there. Just launched, and it's really great, so be sure to check that out as well. Okay, so with that being said, there are so many places that we could start in terms of the Pokemon anime. I guess one thing I could ask you is, so your channel, I guess as far as I have followed it and been made aware, you were kind of just covering just general Pokemon type stuff, and then I would say maybe just fairly recently you started getting more and more into the anime side of things, and that sort of became your focus a little bit more. So just talk to me about how that evolution of your channel happened, and sort of what really got you invested in the anime in general. Besides just obviously it's Pokemon and it's cool.
Yeah. So basically, most PokeTubers, I start out with the general Pokemon content, top 10s, this and that. I started my channel August of 2015. And I was just kind of inspired by a lot of other bigger YouTubers at the time. And, I feel like the early days of my channel for sure were kind of similar to the typical PokeTuber style, as you could put it.
Right.
And I feel like the first real big anime video I've done was covering the Ash Greninja form, because one of the big topics of my channel in the beginning was Pokemon Z speculation, because we didn't know if those games were coming out. And then during that time, after ORAS, we got the leak from CoroCoro about Zygarde's new forms and Ash Greninja, and I was really interested in that, because I've been following the anime since I was little. That was my gateway to the Pokemon franchise. I started with the anime when I was 3 or 4 years old, and then got into the games after that. So that Ash Greninja video blew up, and it got 1 million views. Unfortunately, it got taken down by ShowPro, Japanese copyright and stuff. It sucks.
That's another interesting question. as sort of an anime, like Pokemon anime YouTuber now, how do you deal with ShowPro? Because I know I've done a small handful, I guess you could say, of content that uses the anime, and I've just gotten to the point now where it's like anytime I talk about the anime, I'm only going to use screenshots because it's just not worth it to deal with them. They're just so stingy. So like what do you do like exactly to sort of work your way around that?
It is very annoying. I remember like once my channel started to do more anime focus, I noticed that anime videos do like a lot better than the stuff that I usually do, you know, the basic Pokemon videos, and I really like, I'm passionate about it. I like it. And that was during the XYZ era where the anime was really taking off because Ash had the potential of winning the Kalos League and everything. And I remember in February 2018, like ShowPro took down 13 of my videos all in like one day. And that was like, those are like my best videos at the time. So like my channel took a big hit at that time. And it's like, this was before I edited my footage. I literally just took the footage as it were and just like put it on the video and just like, you know, did my voiceover stuff.
Right.
But that obviously isn't safe, and I've kind of basically, it's a thing like over time where like I kind of learn and do different tricks. Like for one, I kind of shrink the footage so I don't try to make it take up the full screen, because obviously you're more likely to get claimed because of that.
Right. Yeah.
I add like my little borders and like effects. I do like this little TV CRT effect where, you know, we have like the little kind of like colors on the side, kind of like the blue and reds kind of fading over. It's a cool little TV effect and stuff like that. You've probably seen like in other videos people do it too. I was inspired by that because I was like, oh, that looks really cool. It looks like you're watching it off of TV or something. I'm like, that could work on the anime footage, you know what I mean? And that kind of works too. And and also like another trick is to kind of not let your footage linger for too long. I try to keep footage for like 5 seconds at most, and like always keep things moving. That's a nice way to keep things safe, because I know they have like their manual detection where people see and they're like, all right, I'm taking this down, and then they have their automatic detection where like I guess they have computers and stuff that know when an anime footage is like being used. So it's like it's trying to be safe and work your way around it. I'm not saying my methods are perfect, because lots of people, especially those in the Pokemon anime community, ask me for advice, but I'm like, I tell them what I do, and I tell them it's not guaranteed, because this has happened, I kid you not, dude, like twice. These YouTubers have come to me, it's like, hey, what do you do to stay safe from ShowPro? I'm like, oh, I do this, and that. And then literally a couple of days later, I get claimed. So it was like a kind of running joke between my friends that like, I don't want to talk about it because I get jinxed, but it's like, you do what you can, you know. Some things it works, some days it's really good, other days you're just unlucky. That's just how it is. It sucks because like over there, they don't follow the same copyright rules as we do over here in the United States and in other countries as well. Japan is very strict, and it's just annoying, but you know, you just do what you can. Obviously using screenshots is way better, but I feel like for my channel, I just find like using actual footage is more engaging. And I know it's super risky, but you know, I do it because I just feel like I wouldn't be as satisfied with my video if it's like screenshots like every 10 to 5 seconds, and like it's more engaging that way, in my opinion. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. Like whenever, that's kind of what, because I kind of just decided in my mind, I was like, okay, this is just, I just don't want to, like, I want to use the anime stuff, but I don't at the same time. So I kind of just made a rule for myself that I was just going to use screenshots, but then it's just like, I'm the same way. I want to use footage just because it's so much more fun to watch. So it's interesting to hear how you're tiptoeing around that. That's definitely a greater task than I would dare to take on, because like I've kind of had a couple situations that way too, where I mean, not nearly to the effect of like a 1 million view video, but I've had like 1 or 2 videos that have done well that had anime footage, and then they got either taken down or they got sort of like flagged, so they're like still up, but basically they're not like monetized or anything. So,
and it's very rare that you like win an appeal. I think out of like the 13 videos that got striked on my channel, well, not striked, they got claimed, which means they're blocked worldwide. Like I think only one of them was like, all right, fine, we'll let you have this one. But it's like, it's
right. And it's kind of just like, I don't know, I wish, because the Pokemon company themselves, in terms of like gameplay footage with like just the Pokemon games, it's like they're really good about it. Like,
Yeah.
for instance, like Nintendo, like a couple of years ago, they themselves were like, okay, before we were against this, but now you can use it. It's fine as long as you're doing something creative with it.
Yeah.
And Pokemon, even though they're sort of a different thing, they're basically the same way. And so it just doesn't make sense how, like, obviously it's Show Pro, they're the ones animating it, so they have rights, but like it's just a branch off the same tree, and it's kind of frustrating that they don't see how much just letting stuff like that happen could benefit them. Because I mean, for me, the only reason, like I said, as someone who's not following the anime super duper closely, the only real reason I would say why I even follow it to the level that I do is because of like YouTube videos and things like that sort of like keep me
in the loop.
Kind of in the loop, yeah. And it's like if you take that away, you're taking away so much exposure that isn't even hurting you.
Exactly.
That is like is. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation for another day, though. So changing gears a little bit, let me ask you, so you started with the anime, that was sort of your gateway to Pokemon as a whole. I want to ask you sort of a two-ended question. What would you say is like your favorite series of the anime that sort of really got you hooked into it? And then what are you thinking about Pokemon Journeys so far that's going on right now?
All right, so I guess like my favorite series would have to be Diamond and Pearl. For a bit, I kind of shifted more towards X and Y because it was new and fresh and it was cool, and I still love it. It's really great, but I've actually been rewatching the anime just for like my own pleasure and also for like to get more video ideas and stuff. And it's just really great to go back to Diamond and Pearl because I remember I started like with the original series back in the first season, the Indigo League and stuff. I remember watching it on the VHS. My older sister got me VHSs for my birthday, for my 4th birthday, and I used to watch reruns of that. But I didn't really consistently get to start watching Pokemon till it hit Cartoon Network in the Battle Frontier season, so right before Diamond and Pearl. And I was about like 10 years old, so I was literally like the target demographic for Pokemon at that time. I've watched a couple of bit of the Hoenn saga here and there in Johto, but it was always like reruns, and I never really got to watch on that weekly basis. But it was during Diamond and Pearl. Like I watched that series from like beginning to end every Saturday morning, waking up, I remember as a kid. And it was just so good. Like Ash's Pokemon were great. And I feel like what really hooked me was just the overarching story of like Ash and Paul's rivalry. So like I feel like everyone can agree that was like one of the best battles of all time, just because it was set up so well from like the beginning. And even now that I'm rewatching it from start to finish, now that I'm older, I'm like, wow, like it's really great. Like I feel like it's the best put together because they had a general direction for that series. So like once we get that final battle in the league, even though it sucks that Ash lost to Tobias and Darkrai, but I feel like the real payoff was that final 3-part battle. We've never had a 3-episode battle before in the anime. It was just done so well, and just like other things too, like Dawn, and I feel like Brock was his funniest and his best during that series as well. It's just my favorite overall series, to be honest. And then going to the other question about how I feel about Pokemon Journeys, I'm really loving it, to be honest. I feel like a lot of people in the Pokemon anime community would like to call it the blend between XY and Sun and Moon. So XY was very shonen inspired, very, very battle heavy, which is why it brought a lot of people back to the series during that time. But Sun and Moon, it wasn't as battle focused, and it was more comedy focused, laid back slice of life. And I feel like at first I was turned off by it. I hated the art style and stuff. I hated that first season. I feel like what really got me back into the anime and got me into Sun and Moon was the introduction of Gladion, because we knew, okay, Ash has a rival he's probably going to face off against at the end of the series. And then they brought back Brock and Misty, and that's kind of what got me into Sun and Moon. And then by the 3rd season, I fell in love with the series. And then this series, Pokemon Journeys, like I said, it feels like a mix of both. So we have more battle focus, more focus on Pokemon battles, with Ash participating in the World Championships. And it's still more slice of life elements. We have like some just good character moments in general, just some nice funny moments. It's not over the top, like Sun and Moon. It's just like that right amount where it's like, oh, you can enjoy a chill episode. It's not really filler per se, but it's just stuff just to deepen the characters. It makes it more interesting. It's still pretty early. We're still like into the first season, but just the way everything is set up, it seems like they're going somewhere big. Because first of all, we have, like I said, Ash participating in the World Championships. So his goal is to become the strongest trainer, not like win a regional league. Like Leon is put as the best trainer in the entire world. He even beat Lance. So now that's Ash's goal, to defeat Leon. So like if he were to win, he's gonna be the strongest trainer. And it's like he's battling trainers from every region, because that's another big thing about the series. Ash is traveling to every single region, not just Galar. And now we're also getting returning characters. We had Karina return, we had Lieutenant Surge in a flashback, and now with the new opening they hinted, they teased Ash's Alola friends coming back. So it's like, if we have that, and since we're going to every region, there's also the possibility of Ash reuniting with other companions, battling older gym leaders, rivals, and him bringing back older Pokemon. So it's just a lot of good things. This series almost feels like almost a fan fiction in a way, because we're getting a lot of stuff that we wanted. Like Ash caught a Gengar and a Dragonite. Now he has Riolu that's going to evolve into Lucario. It's like everything we wanted is in this series almost.
Yeah, and there's just really like a ton of potential just with the concept of him going to every region and revisiting people, and there's so many different ways they could take it. And I really do like the fact that they gave him or are giving him such a strong team like right off the bat, because I think that kind of does make the difference a lot of times, or at least it's a pretty good parallel in terms of how good the series is, because you've got like Diamond and Pearl, like you said, or X and Y, which are seen as pretty good series, and he's got really strong teams in those series, whereas you could talk like Black and White, for instance, is a pretty like unpopular series fan-wise, and he doesn't have like the strongest team in the world in that series. So I think it bodes well that they're just giving him all these powerful Pokemon right off the bat. But it's interesting that you brought up Sun and Moon, because tons of people, myself included, felt the exact same way you did when you mentioned that like you hated the art style and everything. And I haven't given it the chance like you have, but I very much like feel the same way, where it just was so jarring, especially coming off of X and Y, where like you said, it's more shonen and serious and all that stuff. So I guess what I would like to know, and I have watched a little bit of an episode, and I was just like not feeling it at all. And so I guess you sort of touched on how like Gladion brought you back into it a little bit when he was introduced. Was there anything else that like as it went on that you sort of warmed up to a little bit? Because it did seem like, just kind of feeling out people's reactions and whatnot, that it kind of in a way picked up towards the end, and like it sort of like plots developed, and kind of it all sort of came to a head, if you will, like a little bit.
So it's like a lot of the things that people say in the community is that Sun and Moon was a reaction to Yokai Watch, because if you remember, during that time Yokai Watch was starting to kind of blow up in Japan, and it was coming over here in the West, and it even had its own anime, and it was like kind of comedy focused, slice of life sort of like that. So people say that was Japan's way of like, trying to like still hold on to the fandom, because now the kids like Yokai Watch, so they were scared that Yokai Watch was going to be the next Pokemon, so they turned the anime into a slice of life comedy. I don't know if that's 100% confirmed, but I can definitely understand why people would see it that way. And that's why a lot of people were turned off. I mean, the laid back art style, even though I didn't like it at first, it's still very good for an animation standpoint, because now the characters are more looser. So like when they animate them, when they want to have battles and stuff, or just funny moments, the animations are a lot more fluid and smoother, which looks really good. But the biggest problem was just the art style, how they changed Ash. Ash looked very bad at first, in my opinion. Team Rocket looked weird as well. I feel like the only characters that looked good with the art style transition was Professor Oak and Ash's mom. They kind of looked okay. I like them in that art style, but I feel like everyone else in the series looks great, to be honest. It's just Ash, to go from the XY art style, which is like kind of the most refined art style Pokemon has been, because it's been building up since the beginning, to go something so drastically different. It's like I didn't like it. And like I said, they went to slice of life stuff, and I didn't get into it because it felt like the series wasn't going anywhere, especially since So Sun and Moon, you know how the games they shook up the gym challenge, and now we had trials, and Alola doesn't even have a league. So a lot of the anime fans didn't even know if there was going to be a Pokemon league for Ash to compete in at the end of the series, because the main premise was Ash was in Pokemon school now. And it was like, what is this? Like, he goes from almost winning the Kalos League, saving the world, to going to school. Like, it was just such a turnoff. I get why a lot of people didn't like it. But I feel like one of the first instances that like piqued my interest in the series was when Ash had his first trial against Totem Gumshoes, and then he took on Hala the very next episode. So I'm like, oh, so he is so kind of doing the stuff from the games. He's doing the trial, so you know, eventually there's gonna be a league. Maybe we'll see. I think by like episode 28 of Sun and Moon, they introduced Gladion as Ash's rival, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. And he had the Midnight form Lycanroc, and Ash had a Rockruff, so they kind of set up a rivalry and a potential evolution there. And I was like, oh, now I know, okay, they're definitely going somewhere. And then after Ash's battle against Hala, he didn't really do anything, because there's like these long stretches of just like almost filler where he's just in Melee Island most of the time, just having wacky adventures, and I'm like, it doesn't feel like he's doing anything. There's no progression. But it was after the Gladion episode, he uses the Rock Z move, and Ash is like, how'd you get that? And he's like, oh, you get that in Akala Island by facing Olivia, and that inspired Ash to do his second grand trial. So I was like, okay, they're going somewhere. And then we had the 20th anniversary special where they brought back Brock and Misty, and Ash went back to Kanto, and that was really cool. So that brought back a couple more fans as well, and I was already kind of getting more into it. And then at the end of that like 2-part episode, Kukui and Professor Oak were talking, and that's when Kukui announces that, like that trip is inspiring him to want to open his own Pokemon league, like in the game. So I'm like, okay, there's definitely gonna be a league. So now I'm like definitely hooked, because I love the leagues. I mean, I feel like part of the reason why my channel took off and got more of an anime focus was because I was doing Pokemon League reviews. So that definitely piqued my interest. And I feel like by season 2 it got a little bit better. That's when they introduced the Ultra Beasts. That's when we had Solgaleo and Nebby. And then the Aether Foundation was introduced. Like, they were definitely doing the major story beats now, because at first it didn't feel like they were doing anything. I think the 6th episode of Sun and Moon, it was literally just an episode of Ash and Sophocles going to the mall in Howley City. Like, it's so stupid and ridiculous, but it feels like as it went on, they tried to get more interesting and bring more elements to the games. And even with the art style of Ash, if you compare Ash in the beginning of Sun and Moon, his face, like, he just looks so weird. His eyes are very small and far apart. But then by the end, if you notice in the Alola League, like, they kind of changed his face to kind of look a little bit more how it used to. It's still like laid back art style, but his eyes don't look as tiny and far apart anymore. I didn't even notice that. If you're watching it from a weekly basis, it's just kind of like a slow thing that you don't pick up on. But when you look at it now, like, you compare like 2 images or whatever, it's like, wow, okay, they definitely tried to improve. And I feel like the best part of that series was the Alola League, because they really toned down the comedy a bit. It was still there, it was still a part of the series, obviously, but they really focused on battles. It's literally the longest league arc with 17 episodes of just battling every single episode. That's literally what everybody wanted. And then of course Ash won, which is a pretty big deal, and I feel like they definitely did a good job at bouncing back, because it was a very weird switch from XY to Sun and Moon, but I'm glad that they did eventually slowly kind of just do the stuff that the fans are more used to, and really try to kind of almost like a return to form in a way, because they definitely turned off the comedy a bit. But either way, even if they did that stuff, I just loved how a lot of the characters were portrayed like a lot of the characters had so much life, and that's what made the Alola League interesting, because we follow these characters throughout the series. We see their goals and we see them working towards what they want to do, and then we get to see all of them compete. It's not just Ash, so it feels more rewarding in a way, because that league was very long, but it almost feels like a celebration of the entire series and all the characters you've been following for the past 3 years, not just, all right, here's Ash's journey and who cares what his friends are doing, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah. And it's really, like, it was so cool at the end of it all to see, like, when he did win, like, it was a legitimate viral thing. Like, every like news outlet, regardless if it was game related or Pokemon related, they were posting about it. Like, I think ESPN posted about it.
Yeah,
that's how like big of a deal it was. I was like, yeah, it was like, dang, that's crazy. But you know, you just touched on something really interesting that kind of piqued piqued an idea in my mind. You mentioned how Misty and Brock came back for like sort of this 20th anniversary celebration with Sun and Moon, at least the games coinciding with the 20th anniversary. I think I would be willing to bet. I think that's really the whole reason, now that you mention that, why Journeys is going to be the way it is. Because next year we have the 25th anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think I feel really confident now that this year, in terms of the show, is going to be sort of a build up, like you mentioned, where it takes some time to get its legs under itself and get going. And I think we might see come next year it really start to ramp up in terms of featuring all of the stuff, all the classic characters and regions and everything that everyone's looking for. Because it does. I read it was an article like yesterday, I think, how someone randomly in the new TCG set that's out, someone found a Chimchar card in there that was a 25th anniversary one, I guess, that wasn't supposed to be in there.
A little leak.
Right, yeah. And so it was a little leak of like what they're planning. And so it definitely does seem like, I mean, obviously I've been saying this like for a while, that like if the 20th anniversary like was any indication in terms of how Pokemon like to celebrate these things, then the 25th anniversary is going to be like a lot. There's going to be a lot of stuff. Yeah. And I think it is going to be, it does kind of seem like it is going to be sort of an overarching celebration, if you will, yes, where they're bringing in every like generation and region. That sort of seems to maybe be like what the theme is. Yeah,
that's actually a good point. Because of course we had the 20th anniversary, but 25th, that's like a quarter of a century. That's a bigger deal than 20. And it's just like we said, like they're going to every region. Because when they first announced that, it was very weird. It's like, what is this? Like everyone's expecting Ash to go to Galar and stuff. And at first people weren't sure. People were hoping that we get older Pokemon, older companions, because it would only make sense for Ash if he goes to Sinnoh, reunite with Dawn for an episode or two or stuff like that. But we didn't see that. Yeah. And a lot of people were getting mad. How come we don't see this character when Ash goes to this region and stuff? But I feel like this first season at least was just kind of this series establishing its identity, setting up what they're gonna do. We get the introduction to every region here and there. But now we've had Karina come back for an episode. And now Ash's Alola friends are going to come back when he goes to Alola. So it's like they're definitely setting something up. Like I feel like Pokemon, the last season of every series is always the best, usually. Mm-hmm. Well, not Black and White, but but for most series, it's usually the best. So it only makes sense that this is just the beginning, the setup, and now we're going to do even crazier stuff. Because if you think about it, they already set up by like episode, 12, that the World Championships has like these top 8 trainers that from around the world, and Lance was confirmed to be number 2. He was already another returning character. So the fact that if Ash is working his way to face Leon, and Lance is someone who's competing as well, and Karina and stuff, who's not to say that other champions are probably in the top that Ash is going to have to face to make his way to Leon. So it's like, this definitely, absolutely. I never thought of that. That's such a good point about the 20th anniversary, that it seems like this is kind of building up to that anniversary. Next year is the 25th anniversary of Pokemon. Is it next year, or is it the following?
Yeah, it's next year, so 2021. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But the anime came out a year after, so I feel like the 25th anniversary of the anime would be that 3rd season, so like in 2 years, which makes sense. That would probably be the final season of this series and the final year before like a Generation 9. So that's definitely a good point. That I never thought of that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think we just mapped out their whole scope.
Insane. Yeah.
Because like it fits perfectly. The first season is the year before, and it's the lead up. It establishes itself. The second season is during the 25th anniversary, so it ramps up and starts including people. And then you get the actual 25th anniversary of the anime itself, which is also going to be sort of the tail end of the show, because that year would be the year where we would be leading into Gen 9. So that's when they would get really crazy and, like you said, do like have that tournament. I imagine probably I'm going to make a wild guess here that Gary's going to be one of those 8 trainers. I have a good feeling about that.
I would love for that. Even though the anime made him do his own thing and become a researcher, like who's not to say that he became the Viridian City gym leader on the side, kind of like the games. Because just because he does research doesn't mean he's locked down to just doing that. People say he's not going to battle because he does research, but you see him whip out an Electivire in Sinnoh. Like, why does he have the strong Pokemon? He still loves to battle. I would love they would definitely do that, especially since it's like a 25th anniversary thing. Why not just for like one episode bring back Gary and have like a battle just for old time's sakes? Like,
exactly.
It seems like it. Like, I feel like what I love about the series, it seems like it's respecting every other series that came before and all the fans who have been following, because that's been a complaint for a lot of people, not just in the anime but in the games. That's like Pokemon doesn't really think about their older fans that much anymore, besides like Gen 1 fans. But like this series with going to every region and bringing back older companions and stuff like that, it seems like they're definitely taking into account everything that has happened in the anime, which is something we've always wanted, just like continuity and throwbacks to the fans who have been following for 10, 20 years, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, man. It seems, I totally didn't even think about that until just now as we were talking about it. And that sort of has me kind of pretty excited, because before, when I was thinking about next year, I thought about it in terms of just like, oh, they're obviously going to do a bunch of stuff. I was thinking like they'll probably have like Diamond and Pearl remakes could be possible. That's a big game that would be good for 25th anniversary. But if their true focus, which it really does seem like with Journeys being there, that they want to sort of, like you said, encapsulate all the generations, bring back all the classic, just the best of every generation, and kind of just celebrate the history. I think that has a potential to, not just for the anime, but just like as a whole, really provide for some exciting stuff.
Yes, for sure.
And speaking of like getting, because this will probably be our last point before we sign off here, but it's a good one, so it's good to leave off with it. Since we're talking about returning characters and getting intent, like doing crazy stuff, what are your thoughts about the whole Serena deal? Like, do you think she's gonna come back?
Oh, man.
Do you think like anything's gonna like happen with that? Because I know everyone's just, since she left, everyone's just been dying for her to come back.
Out of all the characters you bring up her, yeah, I mean, a lot of people love Serena, obviously, and she was the one character who was heavily, I guess, pushed onto Ash as a sort of love interest, like even more than Misty. I feel like it's definitely possible that she'll come back, just because if they're bringing back older companions, I feel like after the Sun and Moon gang, she's definitely the most popular, not including Brock and Misty, of course. And it's just because I feel like for the Sun and Moon cast, it makes sense for them to be the ones that are going to be shown off first, because typically whenever we get a new series, they always bring back 1 or 2 characters from the previous series, like into the new one, because they're still fresh in everyone's minds, and it makes sense. And especially with how Sun and Moon was very slice of life, and how like Ash was very ingrained into Alola's culture, and that was basically set up as a second home for him, a second family. It makes sense for him, when you go to Alola, you're gonna see them again. But after we see them, then now the floodgates are open to whoever else can come back. And obviously I feel like it's just because of how much the community loves Serena, it only makes sense to bring her back. People wanting her to come back since it ended. Since XY ended, they wanted her to come back since Sun and Moon, and we never got that. And it makes sense. They wanted to use that returning character slot for Brock and Misty for the 20th anniversary, but now we're in Gen 8, people are still Serena, so it's like, it would make sense. I there's nothing too far-fetched about that.
Yeah, like I definitely see it happening, just in terms of a demand standpoint, and the fact that that's what that's the whole idea of this series anyway. But what's going to be really interesting is, what do they do when she comes back? Because the whole thing with Serena is her love interest with Ash. That's what made her so great, is we actually sort of got to see like an arc like that in a Pokemon show. It was really cool. But it's obviously like that took place in X and Y, which was probably the most mature season of like the main series anime that we've ever had. So like allowed for something like that to happen, even though it wasn't anything crazy, but it sort of lent itself to being able to do something like that. Whereas Journeys is obviously, like you said, it's a mix between the two. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do, because I think if they were to bring back Serena and they just acted like she was just a casual character and everything was like, they didn't acknowledge any of the love stuff, people would be maybe even more pissed than if she didn't come back. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that.
I think when Misty came back, some people those who were like fans of the Ash and Misty relationship were kind of upset that there weren't really that many hints towards Misty liking Ash, because there was a lot back then in the first season.
Right.
But that's kind of something that's faded away. Maybe because of Serena, I don't know, but it's also, that's like an old thing. So like, I'm honestly not expecting too much. I'm not here hoping like, oh my god, I hope they kiss again or whatever. It's like, it doesn't seem like, it doesn't make sense for X and Y. It felt like it made sense narratively because that was part of her character and her character arc, you know. Now it feels like if she were to come back, it's probably for an episode or two. She might have like, you know, the occasional like flirting or blushing moment like she had in XY, but I don't think they'll do anything too over the top with that, or like, you know, put Ash in a relationship, or like, you know, like maybe like, you know, maybe we'll get a flashback or something, but I'm not expecting too much because it doesn't really fit with the series. She's not even a main character for the series anyways, for them to try to push all of a sudden a relationship for Ash when he's trying to, you know, like beat Leon.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's Pokemon, so you can't really expect too much in that respect. But I do feel like, I mean, I would hope at least that they would keep that alive a little more, because like with Misty, like you said, that definitely did happen where they sort of just like left that in the past with like what they had. But with Misty, it was sort of like an unspoken type of thing where she just like, neither of them like admitted how they felt, whereas with Serena it was like clearly more stronger, and it was so obvious. They ended with that kiss at the end. So I don't know, like it's not, like you said, I wouldn't be expecting them to like go full on like they're dating now or anything, but it would be like, if it would be ideal if they sort of kept that narrative going a little bit for like the episodes that she was in the show, because she's only gonna be there like for like a few episodes whenever she does come back. But that pretty much that basically wraps it up. So that's about all the time we have. So my man, it was super great talking to you. It's awesome to get your perspective, and I think I'm definitely, now that Journeys is on Netflix and everything, and it's like super easy to access, I'm gonna try and like pick it up and watch it, because that was always one of the things that stopped me, was especially like newer episodes, is that they were on like, the show was on like Cartoon Network for a while, and then it was on like Disney XD, but it was super hard to just like know when it was going to be on, you know, or like be available to watch it when it was on. So now that it's just on demand, I really got no excuse.
No excuse. You get on that, man. I feel like big things are definitely coming, and it just, even if you're not like too into it, just to see like just Ash battling and using Dragonite and Gengar, like who doesn't want to see that stuff? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's gonna be super dope. All right, well, so like I said, that's basically all the time we have, but thank you guys so much for listening. Definitely got to shout out Zac. He's an awesome, if you haven't heard or seen his content, he's an awesome PokeTuber, does Pokemon stuff, does anime stuff with Pokemon. I'll throw links to him in the description below. Be sure to check him out. And as for this show, obviously we'll be back next Friday as well. And be sure to check out, like, if you're interested in any of those sponsors I mentioned earlier, be sure to check them out. They'll be in the links in the description as well. So with that being said, hope you guys have a great week and a great weekend. I'll see you guys next week with another episode, and until then, I'll smell you guys later.